What's up, guys? It's been an insane week. We're going to do a recap of what happened this week because it was pretty insane. Let's first start off with I want to show the prosecutor's closing statement, and then I'll end it off with the defense closing statement. So let's dive into that, shall we?
The defendant comes running in and drops the fire extinguisher on the ground like this. And then raises his left hand to the gun and points. This is what we see in the video. Him putting the fire extinguisher on the ground and then raising the gun.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. He's facing the wrong direction.
That's an argument.
Okay.
I'd like to actually have, well, I'll leave it alone.
So what you see in that video is his left arm reaching for the gun, holding it up. You can see it again on the video here. His left arm reaching up towards the gun. That is what provokes this entire incident. And one of the things to keep in mind is that when the defendant provokes the incident, he loses the right to self-defense. You cannot claim self-defense against a danger you create. That's critical right here. If you're the one who is threatening others, you lose the right to claim self-defense. Then we have the chase that occurs after that. And we have taken that drone video and we have slowed down portions of that chase for you. So what we have right here on the screen, this is Exhibit 84, and this is the middle portion of that incident. And you can see Mr. Rosenbaum chasing after the defendant, throwing that plastic bag, and then the defendant turns and points the gun back at Mr. Rosenbaum. And this is the moment in time when Mr. Rosenbaum essentially does sort of a little hop with both of his hands in the air. And the defendant has testified. He saw at that moment that there was nothing in the defendant's hand, or in Mr. Rosenbaum's hands. He was unarmed. There's the defendant turning and pointing the gun. Mr. Rosenbaum leaps, his hands out to the air, and then watch here at the end. This is where the shooting occurs.
Okay, so that was a snippet of the prosecution closing statements. I'm not really sure what angle they were taking. I guess they were trying to claim that there was no reason. I think their argument was there was no reason for Kyle to turn around and shoot, even though the guy was chasing him down. It was clearly either trying to beat him to death, maybe steal his gun, shoot him, or it was a very lame prosecution closing statement. So here's the defense closing statement.
There was nothing reckless about my client's conduct that day in regards to Mr. Rosenbaum. Mr. Rosenbaum was coming at him. My client ran from him, retreated, which is not needed, continues to run. The plastic bag is thrown, the metallic plastic bag. Kyle doesn't know what it is at that time. It causes him to turn and look over his shoulder, pointing the gun in that direction. This case is not a game. It is my client's life. We don't play fast and loose with the facts, pretending that Mr. Rosenbaum was Citizen A #1 guy. He was a bad man. He was there. He was causing trouble. He was a rioter. And my client had to deal with him that night alone.
Okay, so that was the defense's closing statement, basically stating, hey, my client was running away, and this guy's throwing shit at him, and he's like, when you think your life is in danger, you don't have time to think, you're just gonna start acting. And so that was their argument. Now I think, okay, so the next thing I'm gonna talk about is I believe this was, I can't remember what day it was, I think either Wednesday or Thursday. The defense started talking about mistrial, meaning that Like the whole trial was just a farce. And what happened was the prosecution had a higher resolution video of the evidence, but they gave the defense a lower resolution of the video. And that's a no-no. It's like whatever evidence the prosecution has, they have to give the same exact evidence to the defense to have a fair trial. You can't just withhold evidence and then later on go, oh, look at what we got. Because the defense isn't, they're not prepared for it.
So, Your Honor, we were talking during the break, and the reality of it is one of the main portions of the video, the thing that you watched, however many times you watched it, right, on a video that we had the video, not the clarity and not the quality. I think that's been conceded that we didn't have that. We were talking about, we would have done this case in a little bit different manner if that was the situation, where we didn't have specific, and I want to say we didn't have the evidence because I don't think that's a fair way to say it, but we didn't have the quality of evidence that the state had until the case had been closed. On Friday, the parties had rested, and we were going to open our closings on Monday. We've talked to Mr. Rittenhouse, and I'm going to be asking the court for a mistrial based upon the fact that if we're really trying to get to the heart of it, we've watched the video, I can tell you what we think, but it doesn't matter what we think because we don't get to present that to the jury anymore. And I think if we're going to try to do this in a way that is free from anybody hiding anything, anybody not having the same evidence as everybody else has, where it is clearly a level, fair playing field, we have to ask for this, and I'm asking for it. We understand that it's going to be without prejudice. We understand that the state can redo this case if the court grants it. We understand they will do it again. But then I think we will all have the same information, the same quality of videos, and I think that is required in a case like this where he's looking at a life sentence potentially without parole if he's convicted. And to not get that until the evidence has already been closed, that doesn't strike me as fair. So for those reasons, I'm making that request.
All right. I'm not going to invite the state to respond yet because the jury has not requested to see number 5, and it'll still have to be addressed because the jury saw it here in the courtroom. But
I'm sorry, Judge, but if I understand Attorney Trofsky's request, this is a motion regardless of what the jury is requesting.
I think we're making that request because it's been shown, it's been pointed out, and in fact we didn't have access. And I'm at this point, I don't think me pointing fingers and doing that is going to be the end all be all. I think what it is I can tell you, and I think the state can tell you, we got a compressed version which was not of the quality that they had. We learned that Friday after the evidence had been closed. We learned that when we tried to play the video, for Your Honor, and the state asked that their AV person be brought over to play their video, which was a higher quality. If this is a disorderly conduct or something, I get it. But we're talking about a potential life sentence here. So I'm making that request.
Okay, so that was that clip. Now, I'd like to talk about the, there was protests outside of the courthouse. Got to dibble-dabble in a little bit of that. This is probably, wasn't really the, okay, well, let me show you this picture right here. Okay. Some TV reporters are being protected by armed security on the job. Now, it's a bit ironic because this is a trial about self-defense, and the reporters felt like they were in such danger over these protests outside the courthouse that they had to get armed security. It's let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. If you're part of the media and you're demonizing this young man for self-defense, you don't have the right. Well, you have the right, but you just look really stupid and hypocritical having armed security by your side.
I'm here to support Kyle Rittenhouse because I'm a constitutionalist. I believe that he is here. He defended himself. I believe all this is a popular opinion. It's all a popular opinion. And I watched the video 50 million times. The man slipped and he defended himself. I wouldn't even run on a person. I wouldn't even run up on a person with a knife. Why would you run on a person? Yes, I get that. He's 17. He shouldn't have been out there. I get that. But he defended himself. Why run up on somebody with their gun?
Jojo! Anthony and Jojo! No justice! No justice!
Leaders and entrepreneurs, I have to get back to my business, but I'm Alvin on.
We do not need agitators, we do not need instigators, and we do not need individuals that are going to bring a spirit of violence and conflict at a time when we're seeking justice and peace.
We don't need white supremacists here.
We don't need white supremacists here.
We don't need white supremacists here.
We don't need white supremacists here. Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization. Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization. Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization. Kyle Rittenhouse is a fucking
protests that are out here, the days that we have been out here, is to remember them. Yes, sir. And to make sure this community does not take a moment and center yourself and remember these families.
Okay, so, yeah, a lot of protests and stuff. People on both sides are very tense. They're very passionate about this case, as you could say. The right feels like this is an attack on the Second Amendment, and the left feels like this is an attack, or no. I'm trying to understand the left side on this. I think the left believes that they're trying to make the case that because Kyle is white, he's going to get off scot-free because he happens to be white. But the fact is we don't know what would have happened if Kyle was black. So that's just a really weak argument, in my opinion. Honestly, if the guy was black and he, this is my opinion, by the way. This is nothing factual. My opinion. If the guy was black and did the same exact thing that Kyle did, this wouldn't be on the news, and this would have never even gone to court because the evidence would have shown that he acted in self-defense. This entire thing is just reverse racism, basically. Okay, so that's that. Okay, now I got to get into the big stuff. MSNBC did a big oopsie. One of their producers decided, hey, let's send out a reporter and try to essentially dox the jurors. And that's a huge no-no. That's actually, a matter of fact, that might be a massive crime. Because the jurors, like, if you're not an American citizen, what the jurors are anonymous citizens who are picked to watch the trial, and basically they all have to come to a conclusion whether if the innocent is guilty or not guilty. So, like, these are just normal average citizens that just are picked by the government to sit there and watch the trial, and they choose if the person is guilty or not. And it is a crime to intimidate the jury or to dox them, because that could change. You know, it's mob rule, basically. You can't do that. So the judge ends up blocking MSNBC from the courthouse.
And let me just set this background here. The jury in this case is being transported from a different location in a bus with the windows covered so that they don't have to look at any, aren't exposed to any signs by one side or another or interest in the case. And so it's I'm going to call it a sealed bus. And that's been done every day, and then they're brought here to this building. And last evening, a person who identified himself as James G. Morrison and who claimed that he was a producer with NBC News, employed for MSNBC, and under the supervision of a person. What's going on? Oh, okay. Under the supervision of someone named Irene Bayan in New York for MSNBC. The police, when they stopped him because he was following at a distance of about a block and went through a red light, pulled him over and inquired of him what was going on, and he gave that information and stated that he had been instructed by Ms. Bayan in New York to follow the jury bus. The matter is under further investigation at this point, and the media has asked questions about it. That's the latest I have. And he was ticketed for violating a traffic control signal. He's not here today from what I'm told, and I have instructed that no one from MSNBC News will be permitted in this building for the duration of this trial. This is a very serious matter, and I don't know what the ultimate truth of it is, but absolutely it would go without much thinking that someone who is following the jury bus, that is a it's extremely serious matter, and will be referred to the proper authorities for further action. Thank you.
So that's that. Friday comes, and around, I think it was around like 10:40 a.m. my time, I hear the news that Kyle is found not guilty on all charges. And I was like, holy cow. It's insane. Watch this.
The jury reached a verdict as to each count of the information.
Yes, we have, Your Honor.
One verdict and one verdict only.
Yes.
Would you hand all of the paperwork to the bailiff, please?
This is the ones that you didn't know.
Everything.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. May I see that too, please, Mrs. Chairman? Thank you. The defendant will rise and face the jury and hearken to its verdicts.
State of Wisconsin versus Kyle Rittenhouse. As to the first count of the information, Joseph Rosenbaum. We, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty. As to the second count of the information, Richard McGinnis. We, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty. As to the third count of the information, unknown male. We, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty. As to the fourth count of the information, Anthony Huber, we, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty. As to the fifth count of the information, Gage Grosskreutz, we, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty.
Members of the jury, are these your unanimous verdicts? Is there anyone who does not agree with the verdicts as read? Would you wish the jury polled? No. Okay. Okay, folks, your job is done, and we started just about 3 weeks ago, and I told you it could last 2 weeks and 2 days. This is 2 weeks. This is 3 weeks. You were a wonderful jury to work with. You were punctual. You were attentive. And the forgotten six over here who had a very difficult job of keeping from discussing the case during the time that they were sequestered as well.
Now, you have to keep in mind, he was about this close from being convicted, potentially life in prison. I mean, that's insane. He got no guilty charge. Boom. Swept away. Massive victory for him. Massive victory for freedom. Now, I'd like to remind you, this is what Trump said a year ago when this case just started.
Are you going to condemn the actions of vigilantes like Kyle Rittenhouse?
We're looking at all of it. That was an interesting situation. You saw the same tape as I saw. And he was trying to get away from them, I guess, it looks like. And he fell. And then they very violently attacked him. And it was something that we're looking at right now, and it's under investigation. But I guess he was in very big trouble. He would have been. He probably would have been killed. But it's under investigation.
Now, that was Trump. I mean, he was ahead of his time. He obviously knew he was going to be found innocent. Look. We all saw the footage a year ago, and we were like, that's clearly self-defense. For whatever reason, the media just decided to ignore it. I don't know why. Anyways, I didn't realize this, but Biden is in a little bit of a sticky situation. In one of his campaign ads back in 2020, he basically said that Kyle Rittenhouse was a white supremacist. Here's what Joe Biden said, September 2020. There's no other way to put it. The President of the United States refused to disavow white supremacists. He's talking about Donald Trump on the debate stage last night. And there's Kyle right there. I'm going to show you that campaign advertisement.
This election will decide whether we save the American dream. We must never allow mob rule.
17-year-old being held on suspicion of first-degree intentional homicide.
Free rein to violent anarchists and criminals.
The El Paso shooting was the deadliest attack at the hands of a white supremacist in the U.S. in 50 years.
We must always have law and order.
Tear gas was used to remove peaceful protesters from Lafayette Park.
A St. Louis couple brandishing firearms against protesters.
The greatest economy in history.
The U.S. lost more than 20 million jobs just in the month of April, making it the worst jobs report on record.
We will crush the virus.
Total cases in the U.S. now top 5.8 million. The virus has killed more than 179,000.
No one will be safe in Biden's America.
The liberals created a situation in which they defunded the police, and Kyle had no choice but to defend himself. And that is a fact. It's a legal fact. Now, let's watch Biden's response to this whole thing.
Do you have any reaction to the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict?
I just heard a moment ago.
Do you have any reaction?
I didn't watch the trial, so
Do you stand by your past comment equating him to white supremacy?
Well, look, I stand by what the jury has concluded. The jury system works, and we have to abide by it.
Okay, so that was Biden's response. It's just really weird. It's weird to see a case reach this level of intense political divide. I hope Kyle sues the living shit out of the legacy media. My God. They have botched this whole thing so badly. The reason why I'm making these news shows is because the facts are just right in front of our face. It has never been so easier to tell the truth and to do the job of a journalist. It's fucking easy work. It's low-hanging fruit. I mean, why not? If I could put MSNBC out of business, oh my gosh, I would do that in a heartbeat. If I could put CNN out of business, oh my gosh, I would love to do it. And it's going to be fucking easy and fun. And this is where I want to end the clip.
All these like internet companies, whether it's Google or whether it's Facebook or Instagram, if they can just censor you based on ideology, then you don't have freedom of speech, because they're the primary means that people communicate. So until we accept that there's some sort of utility, it's not as simple as it's a private company, when it's literally one of the main 2 or 3 ways that human beings share ideas across the planet fucking Earth, it's bigger than just a company. And I don't know what the solution to that is, but we have to have that conversation.
Free the software.
Yeah, right now, we're not having that conversation.
They're abusing their power.
Right, because the way it censors is always in favor of the left. And the people on the left think that's a good idea. But eventually, you can't be left enough. It's just going to keep going. It's a machine. It's Pac-Man. It's just going to keep
I end this show with a good old PBR. It's been a major victory in freedom for the past couple of weeks, actually. It's been fucking phenomenal. And it's going to continue to happen. You know what they say? The truth has no agenda. When you tell the truth, when you stand by the truth, it has no agenda. Cheers, everybody. I hope everyone has a great weekend. That ends the show.